Starting up the YouTube stream now here. All right. Okay, so we're back on YouTube. We probably lost our viewers over there, but that's okay. Okay, so guys on Facebook, I tell you what we're going to do. I can see your comments through one of my browsers. And so tell you what, you go ahead. You got any questions? Go ahead and hit me up. Hello, YouTube. I mean, I'm sorry it took so long to get that up. We were testing it on Facebook first. Hello, YouTube. If you have questions, this is your time to ask them. The last comment I see on Facebook is Robin Silversmith saying, still watching. Hello, Donna and YouTube. Very, very nice to see you. So guys, if you have questions, you know what? The other thing you could do is you could go over to my personal Facebook page if you want. And I can open up a new window for that. And you could post your questions on my personal page also. Hi, Trisha. My last comment I see is Kimberly. Let's see, questions for live group. So if you're a friend of mine on Facebook, you can go to Jill Heidi Osborne on Facebook, and you can, there's a thing there, you can ask your question there, and who the heck knows at this point in time. So the last comment I see is Aaron. All right, but I do see Ileana on YouTube. Hello, Penny on YouTube. I want to get Ileana saying, hold on a sec. All right. Okay. So, you know what? I absolutely love patients who are innovative, who are looking for new ideas, who are willing to be involved, who are willing to create new products, all that sort of thing. And in our chat here, we have a wonderful lady named Ileana Brockman. And Ileana Brockman started a company called IC Relief. And Ileana, please feel free to correct me if you want. Ileana was very involved with the ICA, was very involved in providing support to patients in Florida. If I remember correctly, and again, please feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, Ileana. And you were also in London, so you were also in England providing support to patients in England. Anyway, she was one of the really first to really focus on the pelvic floor. And especially, what can patients do on their own to help their pelvic floor? Because a lot of us have trigger points. I have trigger points deep in my pelvic floor. So the question is, how can we work them? Now, in the old days, physical therapists used to teach husbands and partners how to do that. Hello, Donna from Gander, Canada. Hi, Lisa from Nebraska. Hello, Roxanne from West Virginia. Hi, Trisha. And guys, just know on Facebook, I'm having trouble reading comments. So you can come over to our YouTube, or you can go over to my Facebook page, Jill Heidi Osborne, and ask your questions there. But anyway, getting back to Ileana. So she was the one who really was the first to really create what we would call a glass wand. So let me show you the glass wand. So this, if you've ever had pelvic floor physical therapy, and I've had a lot of it myself, you know, the pelvic floor physical therapist can only go as deep as their finger, right? And sometimes your muscle knot is deeper than that. And you know, the thing about the pelvic floor is, you know, it's kind of like this, and you've got muscles that go this way, and you've got muscles that go this way, and you've got muscles that go this way. And a really good pelvic floor work involves caressing muscles along their length, right? and also if you have a trigger point, kind of pushing on that trigger point, just like if you had a knot in your back, you would have somebody push on it. And so, and hold on, I'm reading a question here. All right, Cheryl, I will catch you in just a second. All right, so this is what Ileana invented. It is a sterile, or when it comes, it is sterile, vacuum packed. It is a glass wand that you can use to do internal massage. I use it myself, and it is absolutely fabulous. And again, it's so wonderful to be able to support IC patients who are trying to make a difference and have created products that really change lives. This is now being used around the country and around the world. Okay. And so if you struggle with listen, I got to tell you, it's a little weird doing it the first time. You make sure you're home alone. You shut your door. It comes with samples of Desert Harvest Aloe, and it's really important to kind of know what you're doing. You want to have a physical therapist teach you how to do it, and or stay. No, you saw my mess. That's my mess. Okay, stay. I'm telling you, we're having a day, aren't we? So with these books, Ending Male Pelvic Pain, Ending Female Pelvic Pain, have instructions on how to use a glass wand. And they will teach you, you kind of look at your vaginal opening as a clock, 12 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 9 o'clock. And they teach you kind of how to use it and where to use it. So I have deep levator spasms from my hysterectomy last year that I just want to curse about all the time. And that's what I use. Okay. So if you struggle with deep trigger points, whether you're a man or a woman, this last wand really could help. And there's also an extra large one if you happen to have a mobility issue, you cannot reach particularly well for one reason or another. There's definitely a much bigger one. Okay, so you can find those in the IC Network store at if you want to buy them, you can buy them right here. This is the IC Network store, icnsales.com. Or you can just go to our main page, ic-network.com, and click on the shop. All right. Cheryl says she's recovering from a hydrodistension and biopsy this morning. Holy moly, girl. And that during the pre-op, they found bacteria in your urine. So you're on antibiotics and a pain pill and diazepam, Valium for seizures, or actually probably muscle spasms. And it's quite interesting that they went ahead with the hydrodistension if they found that you actually had active infection. That's pretty unusual. Normally they would stop because they don't want to push the infection, but maybe it was a very, very mild infection. And so, girl, you're now on your recovery from a hydro. And so, what you're going to need to do is I would take a warm shower, use heating pad, try to relax your muscles that way. You've got your pain meds, use your pain meds. Hopefully within 24 hours, it's going to get much less. Try to drink water. One of the things that happens when you have a hydrodistension, anytime you have a device put in your urethra, your urethra stings. And so I've kind of learned over the years that it's important to drink plenty of water, because if you don't, you're kind of trickling it out. And it seems like when you trickle it out after a hydro, it hurts a little bit more. What I would do is just drink a big glass of water, wait till my bladder was full, and just bite my lip and pee through that first couple of pees until that urethra tends to calm down a little bit more. Lisa McNamara on Facebook says that Ending Female Pelvic Pain is free on Kindle Unlimited right now. Oh my God, Lisa, that is fabulous. Thank you so much for sharing that. That is wonderful, wonderful news. Let me go down to YouTube here. Let's see here. Amy has just been diagnosed with pelvic organ prolapse and is going to start using a pessary. So, Amy, pessaries are really interesting. You know, might surprise you to learn that a lot of really elite athletes use pessaries because when you're running, especially if you've been an elite athlete over time, what happens is you tend to overstrain those muscles, then they get weak, and then before you know it, you've got prolapse. So let me explain what a prolapse is. So here's your pelvis, and here's your bladder, and here's your vagina. And normally, when your muscles are in good shape and they're strong, they're able to hold everything in place. And when they're too tight, then what happens is it's hard to pee and it's hard to poop because they're really tight down here, right? But when your muscles are weak, what happens is they let the organs fall and you end up with a prolapse. And that prolapse then can fall through your vagina. And what can fall through your vagina is your bladder or your uterus. And so, as Donna has said here as Amy said here on YouTube, they're going to start her with a pessary. And so with a pessary, what they do is they stick a ring up into the vagina to kind of hold the bladder and or whatever else is in place. Now, pessaries are interesting. It takes a while to get used to them. You don't take the pessaries out normally they stay in and for a couple of weeks, maybe even a couple of months, and then you go to the doctor and they pull them out and clean them. However, pessaries have been known to fall out. So, and your pessary may have a different choice and a different instruction. So don't be afraid of it, Amy, because I'm telling you right now, a lot of really good athletes absolutely use pessaries. Okay. And if it works, power to you. If it's not comfortable, then you can change the size of the pessary. Instead of doing a ring, it can be oblong, it can be small, they can change the shape. And if that doesn't work, then you can move on to perhaps some sort of surgical repair. Alrighty? All right, if you've got questions, feel free to ask them. I'm really having trouble seeing comments here. I am so sorry. Let me check this one. You know, I might have changed a setting. I think. No, that doesn't make sense. It's very, very weird. I'm going to have to figure it out. Ileana says, has anybody tried to get off of Lyrica? Getting off of Lyrica is very challenging. It's just like getting off of Cymbalta is really challenging. We call it Lyrica discontinuation syndrome or Cymbalta discontinuation syndrome. It can be really, really challenging. Donna says she got her first order of CBD oil from New Leaf. It's organic and comes from Colorado. And she says it seems to be working. So happy to hear that. That is absolutely fantastic. Yep. I'm still looking, guys. I'm still trying to figure out what is the problem here. I do not understand. All right. Trisha says, I've recently been diagnosed with achalasia, a motor dysfunction of the esophagus, often caused by nerve damage. When I read the pamphlet given to me by the doctor, the first thing my husband said was, boy, in a strange way, that sounds like pelvic floor dysfunction. Have you ever heard of people with IC having muscle tension in other parts of their body? And the answer is absolutely yes. And in fact, I think it was at the AUA meeting 5 years ago, they were talking about clenching. And what they found is that patients who tend to clench their jaw also tend to clench their pelvic floor and vice versa. Now, in our research with stomach disorders, the other thing that we found, we had been, you spend any time in IC support group meetings, and what you find is that a lot of patients have stomach distress. And we did a survey on that several years ago, and 95% of the patients who filled out our survey had a variety of stomach issues, from GERD to gastritis to gastroparesis. And in fact, I'm one of those patients who have gastroparesis, which is delayed stomach emptying. And so I have to wonder if maybe you're kind of in that category, Trisha. I was having a lot of esophageal spasms at the time, before they did a test to see if food was properly leaving my stomach. And when they did that test at 4 p.m., my breakfast was still in my stomach. My breakfast from 10 a.m. was still in my stomach 7 or 8 hours later. And that's how they diagnosed me with delayed stomach emptying, or gastroparesis. So I have to wonder if that is involved to some degree in you too. Makes you have to wonder. Let's see. Ileana says, Copaiba essential oil works very well for nerve pain. Never heard of that. Be curious to see what's in that. Catalina says she was just diagnosed and is having the weirdest symptoms. All right, Catalina, what are your symptoms? I'd like to hear more about that. I like weird stuff. I'm trying to, guys, feel free to make your comments. I'm trying. If you're on Facebook and you want to say something and I can't see on Facebook, come on over to the YouTube chat. Catalina says, I feel like everything burns all the time. Okay, Catalina, so here's your question. Is your burning internal or external? Is your burning inside of your body or on the skin on the outside of your body? Rosie asks on Facebook, is wearing tight clothes on her tummy makes her IC bad? Is this normal? Yes. That is very, very normal, because when we have IC flares, we get something called the IC belly. I've had one doctor tell me that's really basically just inflammation. And so it's fairly normal to wake up in the morning with a flat stomach, then you have a flare, and then you look down and it's like, oh my God, I look 5 months pregnant. Dr. Thea Harides at Tufts University is the one who explained that to me. He said it was kind of like a momentary inflammation from the flare that tends to go away when things calm down. Thus, IC patients are really well known for choosing to wear elastic yoga pants, stuff like that. It's just easier. So Catalina, getting back to Catalina, Catalina's newly diagnosed, and she says she's having the weirdest symptoms. She feels like she's burning all the time. Catalina, can you tell me where you're burning? So I asked you if it's internal or external. You're saying both. Is it in your vagina, or is it in your bladder, or is it in your urethra? Oh, but wait a second, my dear. You just asked a second question. Does anyone experience tingling? All right, that's big. So, hun, where is your tingling? Is it in your bladder? Is it in your butt cheek? Is it centered to your body? Is it to the left of the body or the right of the body? I'm right now sitting and I feel a fluttering in my left butt cheek. It's like a little high-pitched electrical one. There's no pain. It's a movement. It's a fluttering. Is that what you're having? Karen says, legging and long tops on Facebook. You betcha. Wearing loose clothes. Yeah. Hello me. I'm wearing my leggings and my loose top. Oh my God. Okay. Isabella asked, have I heard any success with Kava Kava? The answer is no. I've actually heard of patients who flared, but that's a while. And so I'm not sure. I don't believe it's good for IC. The Meltdown author just went out to dinner and she had something that had chopped onion in it and she's hoping she doesn't flare. You know, what's interesting is I can eat white onion. I do really well with white onion and red onion, but I cannot do yellow onion. Okay, so Catalina, getting back to you, you experiencing the tingling. Where is the tingling? Is it in your bladder? Is it in your vagina? Is it in your butt cheek? Is it shooting down your leg? Where is that tingling? That's an important question. Rosie over on Facebook says she's no longer taking vitamin C. That's very smart, my friend. Very, very smart. Vitamin C, known as ascorbic acid, is really well known to irritate the bladder. The Meltdown author about the onion, what's so interesting is my dad is 95 and he's just now having a lot of urgency and it's yellow onions that are doing it to him. We do the fresh, the home delivery thing, because I fix them dinner and they always do yellow onion and it bothers them, which is why I swap in white onion. Catalina, where is your tingling? That's what I want to know. Where is your tingling? Karen, girl, we are going to connect eventually. I promise you, we will. That's so funny. Karen and I have been playing phone tag about her IC, for 10 days now? It's ridiculous. But that is life in the technological world. Isabella says she's getting more and more sensitive to food. She's just down to eat fish and yams. All right. So, Isabella, with that degree of food sensitivity, that really suggests a very badly damaged bladder wall, or far more importantly, Hunner's lesions. Do you have Hunner's lesions? Anytime we see that food sensitivity increasing dramatically, we're really going to look first at a really big wound in the bladder like Hunner's lesions. Has your doctor looked in your bladder? Because that would be really good justification for somebody to take a look in your bladder. Thank you, Cheryl. She says she loves the live support. Well, if I were getting the comments correctly, yeah, it'd be cool. Tonight's a little technologically challenging. Hello, Lucy. The Meltdown author says, urgency and frequency is my biggest issues. I have many triggers, but I'm finding but onion, tomato, and sodas are a big no-no. The tomato and the sodas for sure. You might find those, it's really about the amount of acid. You might find you might be able to get away with a slice of tomato in a sandwich. Because there's very little acid in a slice of tomato. I've been getting these big heirloom yellow tomatoes at our farmer's market, and I can have a big piece of that. It doesn't bother me at all. So a slice of tomato will have very little acid as compared to a cup of tomato sauce, which is going to be the juice from a dozen tomatoes all concentrated down. There's a lot of acid in a cup of tomato sauce, not so much acid in a slice of tomato on a sandwich. So you might be able to get away with that. And we're at the point where the tomatoes are just flying in the farmers markets. So get them while you can before the fall season really hits. Donna asked, does urinary frequency ever go away even if the pain no longer exists? Yeah, but let me explain why you're struggling. So let's have a little anatomy lesson here. So here is a three-dimensional picture of the bladder, right? So we've got a protective coating, right? We've got the underlying superficial cells, and underneath the underlying superficial cells, we've got nerves and blood vessels, okay? Now, if you have a wound to your bladder, and you're missing this coating, you can see that the irritants in your urine come where it's not supposed to. Well, kind of an interesting way to think about it is kind of like a mosquito bite. So when you get a mosquito bite, that mosquito injects venom under your skin. And when that happens, your body goes, hey, this doesn't belong here. And other things happen. You get a ripple effect. You get mast cells releasing histamine. You get a lot of leukocytes in the area because your body thinks there's a threat, right? But at the same time, you've got nerves. Now, the bladder has two core fundamental nerve groups. It has the alpha afferent nerves, which control frequency, urgency, and the C fiber nerves, which control pain. Now, the alpha afferent nerves are deliberately easy to turn on. They're meant to be easy to turn on because those are the ones that tell you when you need to pee. So generally, the first sign that you've got something going on in your bladder is a sensation of frequency urgency. It is the first symptom. And then it takes a major trauma to the bladder to actually cause pain. You know, if your bladder gets very, very over distended, that's usually sufficient to trigger the pain nerves, right? So first nerve to get activated, frequency urgency. Last nerve to turn off, frequency urgency. So, Donna, the fact that your pain has improved is very, very promising because what that means is that the pain nerve has now calmed down. Now our goal is to get that last nerve group to calm down, and that is the frequency urgency nerve. So you've got to, again, we have to focus on trying to protect these nerves. So let's make sure, number one, you've got a nice protective coating. Number two, you're not irritating the nerve with acid foods that would irritate the skin, which would work the nerves up. Or hopefully you're not doing caffeine, which I equate to a jackhammer on your nervous system. That's a bad thing. And also maybe even doing a bladder coating, you know, doing something that will calm and soothe the bladder, whether it be Desert Harvest Aloe, Cysto Renew, or Cysto Protect. These all have a calming, soothing, coating effect on the bladder wall. So that would be another way to protect that nerve, to give it an opportunity to calm down. I know 51 comments on Facebook, guys. I can only see 4 of them. So again, I apologize. Isabella says, any type of catheter causes severe flares lasting months. I've never had the bladder looked at out of fear that I can get worse permanent pain from the hydrodistension. Even the rescue still flared me till the next day. Okay, but seriously, Donna, now listen, girl. You cannot let fear stop you from getting a proper diagnosis. Let me explain a couple of things. You already know that when you have a catheter inserted into your bladder, that your urethra is going to hurt afterwards, but it tends to be short term. So putting a mechanical instrument up through your bladder, yes, your bladder is going to get stretched. I mean, your urethra is going to get stretched. But that is a very short-term discomfort. Usually that's gone 6 hours later after you've peed a couple of times. So that would be the first thing that we would look at. And also size matters. I mean, seriously, if they're shoving a big giant catheter up you, you know, an 18 French, 24 French, yeah, you're really stretching the urethra. You can ask for a smaller catheter. You can ask for a pediatric catheter, you know, an 8 French, a 10 French, a 12 French. So concept number 1 is the type of catheter they're using. Concept number 2 is the urethra calms down very, very quickly. Concept number 3, though, is, are they putting anything in? Oh, actually, and again, concept number 2 with the type of catheter, make sure it's not a latex catheter. Maybe you're having a latex sensitivity. If it's a red rubber catheter, it could be a latex catheter. You'd be having a latex reaction. That could explain why your urethra is hurting. And then the fourth thing that we need to look at, third or fourth, whatever, is did they deliver a medicine into your bladder that really hurt, like potassium? Sometimes doctors do a potassium sensitivity test to see if your bladder wall's damaged, and that's salt on a wound, and that screams and that hurts. Generally, if you have that done, they do a rescue installation immediately afterwards to calm down those nerves. But Isabel, I want to tell you the story of a patient I was working with earlier this year. She had all the symptoms of IC for years, and she was desperately afraid to have any tests done. But it just got more and more irritating over time. It was driving her crazy. So finally, she decided to bite her lip and let her doctor look in her bladder. You know what they found? Like, oh my God, what they found was a giant, sharp kidney stone, like the size of an almond, floating around in her urine. And kidney stones have very sharp edges. So wherever this was floating, this was cutting her bladder. It's amazing. And she was stunned. The doctor was stunned. Nobody had a clue that she had a giant kidney stone. They broke it up. They got it out of her bladder. And guess what? Her bladder healed and she is symptom-free. So she let fear of having that test stop her doctor from finding the cause of her pain. And ultimately, the end, listen, my dear, if you are getting worse over time, if you are not improving, what the American Urology Association says is let's revisit the diagnosis. Let's make sure we haven't missed something like a kidney stone. And so if I were you, I would start focusing on your anatomy. We need to start asking the doctor a question. What is causing your pain? Is it your bladder wall? Is it a Hunner's lesion? It is tight pelvic floor muscles. You know, I often tell patients who are going to new doctors, don't even mention IC. Do not bring IC up for at least 15 minutes. You're going in there to solve a mystery. And so you're going to tell, as I said to a patient about 2 hours ago, you're going in to ask the doctor, number one, why is my urethra hurting? And number two, why am I bleeding when I pee sometimes? You are an anatomical mystery to be solved. We need to understand your biology. And there comes a time when guessing does not work anymore. There comes a time when you just need to let somebody look. However, you have to pick who you're letting work. Listen, a little local urologist who doesn't have a lot of IC patients wouldn't be the first choice. What I would do if I were you is I would go see a really good IC doctor, a good national doctor like Robert Evans at Wake Forest, or Ken Peters at Beaumont Urology, or Robert Moldwin in Long Island, or Chris Payne or Jeanette Potts out here in California. If you take it up from the local doctor and you go to a regional doctor or a national doctor, they are really, really good at making these tests super easy. So Isabel is asking, would I need a hydrodistension or a cystoscopy? And the answer is, I don't know. We now have new technology called narrowband imaging. If you go to a clinic where they have narrowband imaging, they can then do just a plain cysto and look at your bladder, and that will see everything, and you wouldn't need a hydrodistension. However, that's not available at a lot of clinics. So now what we're doing is low pressure, short duration hydrodistensions. In the old days, 5 or more years ago, doctors were kind of the opinion that the more you stretch the bladder, the better the result. And we called those high pressure, long duration hydrodistensions, where they put a lot of fluid in the bladder and they kept it in there for a long time. What we now know is when you do that, you run the risk of rupturing the bladder. And so starting in 2011, when the American Urology Association released their guidelines on the treatment of IC, they specifically said no more hydrodistensions. We cannot risk traumatizing the bladder wall. So these are no longer done for IC. Long-term antibiotics, BCG, RTX, silver nitrate, chlorpactin, and high-pressure hydrodistensions. What are we doing instead is low-pressure, short-duration distensions. I had one last year. Total piece of cake. Very, very gentle. So, girl, if you're worried about what to do, and if you're worried about how it's going to be done, remember, you're the boss. He's not the boss. You're the boss. You pay them. They don't pay you. You go in and say, now, listen, I'm trying to figure out why my bladder is screaming I'm very interested in having you look at it. However, we're going to talk about how you're going to do it first. I am not interested in a high pressure distension. I need you to be as gentle as you can possibly be. I want a low pressure, easy, simple, gentle procedure, which is what I said to my gynecologist last year, that they always do a hydrodistension after a hysterectomy to make sure they haven't ruptured your bladder or got a stitch through your bladder wall. And I told him flat out, you're doing low pressure. He goes, of course, we don't do high pressure anymore. So, go in and talk about technique, my dear. You have the right to talk about technique. You are the boss. They need to educate you what they're doing. And if you're uncomfortable with them, let's go see a better doctor. Let's go to that regional doctor or that national doctor. We have a database on our website, a doctor database that might help. Okay. Cheryl says, sleep over on Facebook, sleep is difficult during flares. What do you suggest? Cheryl, we have a sleeping blog. Actually, you know what? I didn't put it on our website because we're going to put it in our magazine and we're expanding it. Let me see if I can find it here. Let me take a look and see if it is in my magazine folder, and I can just go over that with you real quick. I must go up onto my cloud drive into publications under development. Here it is. All righty. I can give you the tips directly from our magazine. Okay, so the question is how can you get better sleep when you're having an IC flare? Well, I mean, obviously, number one, heat. Heat will relax muscles. I mean, I spent years, I still sleep with a heating pad, for God's sake. Sleeping with heat, putting it right over your bladder. I find heavy heat is really good. And they also make these heavy blankets. And you might find the comfort of these heavy blankets more comforting for your body with that. If you're taking medicine like hydroxyzine or Elavil, don't take it right before you go to bed. Take it at dinner time. Give it a couple of hours to get into your bloodstream so that you have the benefit of the medicine to try to help you sleep better. That's particularly true with Vistaril or Atarax if you're taking those antihistamines. When in doubt, go for some of the over-the-counter pain relievers. And as an example, I'm slathered with Tiger Balm right now. This is NeuroQuell, also known as Proserona. It is the essential oil of a marigold plant. It was the Endometriosis Association who made the discovery that this actually helped interfere with pain messages. So you might find using an essential oil like NeuroQuell or Proserona helpful. Again, I use Tiger Balm myself. Let's see what else I've got in here. One of the mistakes that patients make is you stop drinking at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And when you stop drinking, what happens is your urine gets more concentrated. So by the time you try to go to bed, you got really acidic, irritating, provocative urine in your bladder. So if you're doing that, stop. That's to help the light. So make sure you're well hydrated. Try to have a glass of water maybe 2 hours before you go to bed and have a sip of water before you go to bed. Be consistent with the time that you go to bed. Turn off your, I need to do that. I don't sleep until 2 a.m. usually every night. Even though I go to bed at midnight, I'm programmed to go to bed at 2 a.m. That's the life of pain. I'm sure some of you out there, you've noticed that when my IC was really bad, I was kind of like afraid to sleep. And so I would go to bed later and later and later and later until finally I was like falling asleep at 4 or 5 in the morning. And I think that that's fairly normal, but it's not helpful. It's important to try to be consistent. You got to turn off your electrical devices other than maybe, a book. Do a guided relaxation. We sell a couple of guided relaxation CDs that you can listen to as you're going to bed to relax your body from head to toe. That was something that I did early on. Potentials Unlimited self-relaxation CD, which I think might still be available. But we've got the Beaumont CD specifically for reducing pelvic pain. You can try something like that. Of course, you got to follow the diet. Let's make sure that you're not accidentally irritating your bladder or doing caffeine or anything like that. Keep your room dark, open your window, keep it cool if you can. Try to eliminate any light sources. If you're using a iPad, as I do, make sure you put it on the night settings. If your background color is blues, that wakes you up. If your background colors are oranges or goldens, that helps calm down your nervous system. When you're looking at blue, it turns everything on. It wakes you up. So you might want to play with your background colors on this. And as an example, because I read pretty much a book a night, I just read constantly. Apparently, I have no other life than books and the IC Network. But let me show you here real quick. That was a little bit of an exaggeration, but I do read a lot. So if you're using your Kindle, as I do, make sure you play with your video, your background color. Try to mute it as much as you can. This is actually kind of gray, but in your settings, you can play with that a little bit more. And even there is a sepia tone. Let's see if I can find it. Here we go. Oh, come on. I swear, the Halloween technology ghosts are all over me right now. So you can use sepia to make it more orangey. That doing white on black, I think is I don't know. You just have to play with it, but you got to be really careful with the white background. That'll definitely keep you awake and stimulate your nervous system. You can try melatonin. Melatonin does not seem to bother the bladder. Try aromatherapy. And I will tell you, just for me, one of the things that really made it difficult for me to sleep is in the early days, is I had so much massive anxiety. I was worried about my life. I was worried about my future. I was worried about going to the doctor. I was worried about freaking everything. And when you're laying in bed with all this catastrophizing going on, it's very, very hard to sleep. It's just impossible. So journaling is really important. So I got a notepad, a little spiral book, like 6 by 8 inches. And the rule is 3 pages longhand before you go to bed. Just write out all the things that are bugging you, all the stresses, all the worries. Empty your spirit, empty your soul. Just let it out on paper. And and then in the morning, before you get out of bed, do it again. Get out all your worries, all your stresses, so that you don't start the day in this haze of anxiety. Just let it go. Another technique that was so interesting, I really struggled with being really angry about it for a while, really angry with everybody. I was just freaking angry. And so somebody said, all right, it's okay to be angry. Just pick when you're going to be angry. If you're going to be angry at 11 o'clock from 11 to 11:15. That's when you have my permission to be angry. And at 11:15, you're done. Let it go. So from 11 to 11:15, if you need to go in the shower and scream, if you need to hit a pillow, whatever, stomp around the house, fine. Be angry at 11 o'clock every morning. But know that 11:15 or 11:10, you stop. You stop. And so that might be helpful too. Alrighty. those are just a couple of ideas. But the weighted blanket, as Ileana is saying on YouTube, really, really good. Karen says locally grown tomatoes are less acidic and better for you. I completely agree. We have gotten some wonderful, huge yellow tomatoes at our farmer's market. They make the best bacon, lettuce, and tomato sandwiches. Remember, the riper, the fresher the fruit, the less the acid. If you get a tomato that was not picked at a good time, not quite as ripe, it's going to be higher in acid. It's the ripening process that increases the sugar and reduces the acid level. So you want really ripe, fresh tomatoes off the vine, ideally yellow or orange as compared to red. Green tomatoes would be okay too. Donna says, I'm not messing with my hair. I'm trying not. Hey, you know I'm really stressing if I'm doing those. Donna loves journaling. Okay, guys, if you have questions on Facebook, feel free to ask them. Karen said, help some. And again, I'm sorry, I cannot go scroll back through Facebook. It's screwed up. The ghosts are here. Ileana says she likes the angry tip. I also, when I used to swim, I used to do a chakra meditation. And I don't know if you guys know what that is. Your chakras are basically 7 energy sources. And yes, it's kind of California goofy, but your bottom chakra is red. It's by your tailbone. It's considered to be your anger source. Your next chakra is between your hip bones. That's orange. Your stomach is yellow. That's hunger. That's food. And that's nutrition. Green is over your lungs. That's good breath. Blue is your throat. Turquoise is kind of your brain knowledge center, and the top of your head is purple, and that is kind of actualization. That means everything is working beautifully. And so when I was rowing at the gym or swimming in the pool, I would do 10 laps per color. So I would do 10 laps of being really angry, and I would hit the pool water hard, or I would row angry. And then I'd do 2 laps of orange, which is sexy. That's your sex area. So feeling real sexy. And I'd do 10 laps of yellow and 10 laps of green and 10 laps of blue. And that's another really kind of neat way of getting your anger out. It's just hitting that pool water hard the way I did it. Belle says, I'm only 18. I feel like this disease has destroyed my life. I've journaled in the last, but I'll definitely pick it back up. Well, listen, Belle, first of all, if I could give you a hug right now, I would, because you're 18, and to be a teenager and to be facing this is so frustrated. But I want to challenge you in a couple of ways. Number one, we don't think of this as a disease. We don't. We think of this more as an injury or trauma. Why? Because there's usually other things going on. You might have tight pelvic floor muscles, yada, yada. I want you to come over to our website, and I want you to watch right on the front page. I have a link to our Living with IC video series. I want you to watch our video called The 5 Subtypes of IC, because not everybody's the same. Man, if there is one thing we have learned in the last 20 years, if not the last 5 years, is that a one treatment fits all approach does not work. Why? Because we are very, very different. We have the biggest group of patients actually have muscle injury. And I'm going to tell you right now, the vast majority of teenagers that I'm working with are people like gymnasts and wrestlers, football players, where they have sustained some sort of injury to the pelvis or trauma, to the pelvic floor, or trauma to the pelvic floor, which has created tight dysfunctional muscles. Let me give you another example. About a month ago, I was working with a girl who was maybe 19 years old. And she had just been diagnosed with IC. She was really, really struggling. But when we were talking about subtyping, what really, really spoke to me was that her symptoms were, she was having trouble peeing. She couldn't get her urine out easily. And it turned out she had massive pelvic floor dysfunction because She had been dancing since she was 5 years old, ballet. And in ballet, normally we're gonna walk like this with our butt kind of out, right? There's a nice arc in our back. But when you're a ballerina, you're taught to tuck it in, right? And you don't have a normal arch for your lower back. And interestingly, this book that I talked about earlier talked about that. They talked about posture. And they explained how, this doctor explains how when you tuck your pelvis under, here it is right here, posture changes in response to pain. Okay. When you're standing normally, your weight is balanced on your hips appropriately. When you tuck your pelvis under, as ballerinas are taught, all of your weight ends up directly in your pelvic girdle. And so here we had a 19-year-old with extreme pelvic floor dysfunction. So again, I really want you to look at the subtyping video and let's see if we can solve the mystery of why you're in pain. And Belle, really, seriously, I love talking with kids with IC. I'm sorry, you're not a kid. You're an adult. You're 18. It's just I'm a kid in my brain, so bear with me for that. I don't mean to insult. I would love to talk to you. If you want to give me a phone call tomorrow, let's put our heads together. Let's see if we can try to subtype you a little bit more. My direct phone line is 1-800-928-7496. Call me. You guys, we're the only IC group that actually answers the phone and takes patient questions, and I'm happy to talk with you. It's just first come, first serve. And sometimes it takes me a day to call back, so depending upon if we're on deadline or something like that. I am getting very close to being on deadline with our next magazine. Isabella asks on YouTube, if they find Hunner's lesions during cystoscopy, can they burn them off or remove them? Well, Isabella, you know what? They don't need to burn them off. What they can do is inject them with a steroid, triamcinolone. If you inject it, you get the same results without the scar tissue. But we also have the first treatment in history that has healed Hunner's lesions. It is called Liris, Liris. So these are our Hunner's lesion therapy. We're either going to fulgurate it, or we're going to inject it with a steroid, or we're going to use the Liris device. And the Liris device is the first treatment in history that has healed Hunner's lesions after just 2 weeks. So you have a lot of reasons to be hopeful and encouraged, okay? Yeah, Belle, thank you. Could definitely call me, girl. I'm sorry. I don't know if you're a girl or not, but definitely call me. Donna's going to get the book for her PT. Please do. Everybody should have this book. Thank you. I love taking patient phone calls. I've got so much to do. That's why I work till 1 a.m. Although I have been known to stop and play Fortnite. Yes, I do play Fortnite every now and then. It's a good stress manager. Seriously, if you're in a flare, go play Fortnite for 15 minutes or 30 minutes and just pretend whoever you're shooting is your bladder. Isabella says, where can one get Liris device for Hunner's lesions? You're in Canada. Actually, it was created in Canada. The first research was done in Canada. The company that owns it right now is called Allergan, and we are in between clinical trials. So you check our website, sign up for our newsletter, and we will let you know the next news about Liris. Catalina, again on YouTube, and again, guys, on Facebook, I apologize. Oh, look, wait, I can see new messages on Facebook. Whoa, hold on. Tammy says she wonders if cannabis suppositories would work better than oils or smoking pain. I will tell you, at the American Urology Association meeting in the class on IC, they talked about cannabis suppositories. And they recommended or mentioned a brand, and the brand was Fair Winds. Hold on, let me get it. This is our summer magazine, Summer IC Optimist. And let me tell you, here it is. Jennifer Fariello Moldwin, one of the teachers of the class, shared that they are seeing great success using medical marijuana suppositories, specifically mentioning Fairwinds cannabis infused vaginal suppositories that are called Feminine Relief, and rectal suppositories that are called Rectify. So I don't know if you can see that. Fairwinds cannabis. Seriously, if you're a member of the IC network, you've already got this on your hand, and I will tell you that this is page 12. If you're not a member of the IC network, would you please come on over to our website and become a member? You can get this by email for $25 a year, and that is indeed what makes this live event happen. All righty, and we also have them by snail mail too. Colleen asked for our phone number again, and our phone number 800-928-7496. Julie, you say bladder removal, but I don't know what the context of that is because Facebook's screwing everything up for me. Hold on a sec. Maybe I found it. A year ago, my doctor said my bladder is shot. My next step, my next only step, if you really not even want to do, was to have your All right. So Julie has had her Hunner's lesions treated. She's working on her pelvic floor. She just had a hydrodistension with cystoscopy a week ago from today, where they treated 5 freaking ulcers, and you had Botox. Holy moly, girl. I'm glad that they treated those. You got to keep it up. You got to keep those treatments up. Ulcers that are not treated are known for hurting quite a bit, but when you treat the ulcers, guess what? You do well. You know, pain usually resolves or can improve dramatically. You also have bilateral inner stems. You don't want to have your bladder removed. Okay, girl, keep at it. Keep at it. Donna says, can you develop Hunner's lesions later in your IC, even though you don't have them with your initial diagnosis? I don't have any research that shows that happens. What I can say is that in research studies, what they tend to say is the Hunner's lesions are more commonly found in older patients, but I don't think we can go so far as to say that it's a continuity. There are 2 theories about Hunner's lesions. Number one, that it's a nerve that is kind of stuck in the on position, massive neuroinflammation, and or it might even be a virus living on that nerve. And I've talked about that a lot in other support group meetings online. So I don't believe that it represents any continuum, and I don't think I've ever seen a paper show that or prove that. When you biopsy a Hunner's lesion, it is massive inflammation. If you biopsy somebody without Hunner's lesion, there is like no inflammation. There's no inflammation. And that's why we think Hunner's lesions are really separate and distinct from everybody else. There's even a move internationally to create make Hunner's lesion its own disease process. That you deserve your own research, that you deserve your own support groups. And that's a whole nother story. But pretty much every clinician, every researcher around the world absolutely believes that Hunner's lesion represents its own unique disease process, and it's the only kind of, quote, active disease process, although that's subject to discussion and debate. It's all different ways to look at that. But anyway. Catalina, can you have flares all the time? Well, my first flare lasted about 2 years because I was drinking a quart of cranberry juice a day, had no idea what I was doing was wrong. And then it took a long time for my bladder to calm down. So the odds are you're just in a really wicked either bladder wall flare or pelvic floor flare. And Isabella, the one thing you've got to understand about Canada is the Canadian medical system is really about a decade behind everyone else. I know you already know that. It is ironic that the Canadian Urology Association is being led by Curtis Nickel, who literally is the best IC doctor in Canada. He is at Queen's University in Toronto. He is not taking new patients, unfortunately, although one way to get into his office is to participate in one of his clinical trials. Then you can get in. So finally, we get an IC specialist leading the Canadian Urology Association, and we're all hoping that that's going to have a ripple effect, that they're going to have classes for urologists and really focus on IC as a real thing. But right now, getting care in Canada is very challenging at times. A lot of patients up in Canada, especially if you're in Ontario, actually just come on over the lake and come on over to Beaumont Hospital, and they get their IC care here in the United States. Ileana says she too's never heard of patients developing lesions after being diagnosed, after developing IC with the other subtypes. Mary Lynn says, do you know why DMSO is not available all of a sudden in Canada? And the answer is it has been discontinued, and it is fishy. It is very fishy that Uracyst and DMSO have been discontinued. They are both owned, I believe, by BioNiche. No, I take that back. I think BioNiche sold the. So hold on. I'm pissed off. I'm pissed off about this. I'm telling you right now, because I called the company and I said, "Did you warn anybody? Do you have any options for doctors using these meds?" And their answer was no, no, no. And I think it's Mylan. The most hated pharmaceutical company in the world, Mylan Pharmaceuticals, I do believe, owns them both now. Yeah. So Mylan is a company that raised the price of the EpiPen, 500, 600%. I believe that they bought BioNiche, which owned DMSO and Rimso, and it is in fact Mylan who has discontinued it without any explanation. So what are you going to do? I mean, the good news is DMSO pretty much is dead in the water anyway as an IC therapy. It's certainly not popular anymore. Rimso 50, Elmeron as a bladder installation, or doing a heparin lidocaine installation is really the option, or Ialuril, IALURIL, which is a combination. Hold on. So this is what you need to ask for, Mary Lynn. I want to write it out. It's a tricky how you spell it. Hold on. Okay. So this is what you need to ask for. And Heather, I will give you an update on that. Hold on. IALU. Okay. Ialuril. So this is available in Canada and Europe. Ialuril is a combination of chondroitin with hyaluronic acid. So this is your next best option if you were using Cystastat and it was discontinued. Okay. Stephanie, well, let's see. Hold on. Stephanie asked about the success with the pacemaker. I'm assuming that you mean InterStim. Hold on. I'm rolling over paper here. What is the success of InterStim? InterStim is a step 4 treatment option. It is neuromodulation. We have 2 different forms of neuromodulation. We've got ankle stem, also known as urgent PC, versus sacral or pudendal stem, which is known as inner stem. The difference is profound. With inner stem, it requires a surgical incision to implant leads, and then another surgical incision to implant the pacemaker, to implant the unit. Because of that, inner stem has hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and more hundreds of very severe adverse events reported to the FDA. Inner stem has been directly connected to 19 deaths the last time I counted. 19 reports of fatalities associated with inner stem, including changes in heart rhythm, lots of deep tissue MRSA infections, lots of device malfunctions, device moving. And let's just do an experiment here. I'm going to go to that FDA database right now. It's called the MAUDE database, like the old TV show MAUDE. So if you Google MAUDE, FDA MAUDE, it will take you to that front page. And then you search for brand name InterStim. And make sure you go back like a year. So I'm going to start at September 2017 to today's date. Search. And so let's go through some of these adverse events. There are 362 adverse events that were filed in the last year. Here, the first one. Information was received from a consumer regarding a neurostimulator used for urinary dysfunction and GI pelvic floor. The patient reported that it was going too fast, which made them queasy and sick. They mentioned the stimulation was uncomfortable and used words such as quivering all over the place, irritating, uncomfortable, and difficult to describe. They noticed that they were getting up in the middle of the night and it was making her as mean as a snake. The patient stated that they had gallbladder surgery. Everything changed after that. The patient was giving yada, yada, yada. Okay. So if you're considering neuromodulation, InterStim, you absolutely need to come to the MAUDE database and go through like 300 reports so that you got your eyes wide open, my friend, on what the potential challenges are. Then I want you to search for urgent PC, which I'm going to do right now. Urgent PC requires no surgery. It is literally an acupuncture needle put above your ankle, attached to a TENS unit outside of your body. So I'm now searching for urgent PC, and then not a single adverse event was filed for urgent PC in the same period. I was an urgent PC patient when it was invented in 1993. I don't know if you can see, there's kind of a dark mark right here. See, you can see it right there. That is the tattoo that they gave me so that I could do it at home on my own. And so most patients start with ankle stim first because it is cheap and the risks are very, very low, and you don't require surgery to have it removed. Okay, if ankles and it's $5,000 compared to $50,000. When you have inner stim, you're looking at a minimum of 2 surgeries, possibly more. You've got the surgery to implant the electrode, the surgery to implant the box, the surgery to change the batteries, and the surgery to remove the device. And in the end, that can cost hundreds of dollars. I also want to say one last thing. If you are considering InterStim, 2 last things. You have, number one, consider your health insurance. We had a lady in Florida who, through her job, had wonderful health insurance. They implanted InterStim, then she lost her job and she ended up on Medicaid. And shock of shocks, her urologist dropped her. So here, you're sold a bill of goods that you need to be on InterStim. They tell you it needs constant medical attention, and that works until you lose your health insurance. And then you lose your health insurance, you're stuck. And in her case, her device was malfunctioning. And she had no one in Florida would take her. And I finally got her on the phone with Medtronic and said, it's their job to find someone for you. And it turned out there was one doctor in Florida who would take her as a Medicaid patient and work with her device. So understand insurance matters. If you don't have good insurance or you think you might lose your insurance, maybe not the best time to have InterStim. The other thing to really think about InterStim is cost. So we had a nurse somewhere in Virginia, North Carolina, somewhere in there. She lived in a small town. Her doctors, there were 3 urologists in her town. They all told her that she had to have InterStim. She was wary. She worked at the hospital there, but she tried to do her due diligence. So she talked to the bookkeeper at her doctor's office, who said, yes, it is covered by insurance. You do not need a pre-approval. She then called the hospital accountant. Is this covered by my health insurance? They said, yes, absolutely. It is covered by your health insurance. You do not need a written pre-approval. She then went over and above and called her freaking insurance company and asked them, is this covered by my insurance? They said, yes, absolutely. You do not need a written pre-approval. So she had the surgery done. A week later, she had a bill for $80,000 and a threat to garnish her wages because she didn't get it in writing. So if you're thinking InterStim, for God's sake, get it in writing first. It's, I love my job and I'm a good investigator and I can be angry. And I love helping people who have been ruined, who have been messed around and intimidated like that. So hopefully I was able to help her a little bit. But guys, seriously, InterStim can be very expensive and very risky over the long term, hundreds of adverse events, very expensive, and very insurance funky at times. Okay. All right. Laura says, how dangerous can Botox be? Botox used to be a step 5 treatment option. It is now a step 4 treatment option. So if you are familiar with the American Urology Association, AU.net, 6-step treatment protocol for IC that was released in 2011 and revised in 2014. They have a 6-step treatment protocol that works. People, it works. It's good. AUA is very compassionate. They're doing a very good job. Okay. So I'm going to let you watch the video on our website that goes through this, but we got step 1, basic self-help. Hold on. Let me just get these in order here. Okay. Step 2, physical therapy, oral meds, bladder instills, pain care. Step 3, hydrodistension, Hunter's lesion treatment. Step 4, neuromodulation, Botox. So why do we have the steps this way? It's all about reducing your risk of adverse event. We don't want you to do dangerous stuff until you do the easy stuff. Now we tell you the vast majority of people do really well with treatment 1, treatment 2, steps 1 and 2. You go up the chain slowly and thoughtfully. When you get to step 4, you're facing bigger risks. Now I will tell you, Botox originally was in step 5 because what they found is that, think about what Botox does. It's botulinum toxin. It destroys nerve. It temporarily renders nerves non-functional. So we use Botox here or wherever. They can do it in your joint. They can do it for migraines. They can use Botox a lot of different medical ways. So they have been using it in the bladder wall and in pelvic floor muscles for quite some time. Unfortunately, though, so it's administered usually by a needle. And so if we consider this half of your bladder wall, they just kind of randomly stick, right? And do it on the other side, kind of randomly stick. Well, if they happen to hit the nerve that controls your ability to pee, you will not be able to pee. 2 weeks, 2 months, 4 months. You won't be able to pee until it wears off. Thus, Botox is not supposed to be done on anybody who is unable to self-catheterize. Concept number two, and danger number two, is that there is a very small possibility that it could be injected into a blood vessel. And if that happens, it can get to the lungs and it will numb the nerves in your lungs and make it difficult to breathe. And this happened to an IC patient that I was working with last spring. She had a Botox treatment. 4 hours later, she stopped breathing. And she was on a ventilator for 2 weeks until she started breathing again. And that was all because the Botox got in such sufficient quantity that it ended up damaging her ability to breathe. So Botox comes with risks. It is step 4. Okay. Ms. Dean says, first of all, you're an Army vet from Mississippi. Thank you so much for your service. The IC Network, I will tell you right now, loves anybody in the military. I serve on the U.S. Army IC Research Panel. And it is very rare that I won't help you in some way because I believe in your service. And I thank you so much for your service. So your question is have you heard about the Durham Veteran Hospital conducting IC research? We will not receive any of our personal results. Yes, I have. I cannot talk about it because I have a confidentiality agreement. And if it is what I think it is, I cannot talk about it. I'm sorry to say. Interstitial cystitis is considered one of 20 to 25 to 30 conditions relevant to combat readiness. It is a priority of the U.S. Army. They allocate millions of dollars a year to these conditions. And in all likelihood, they might be participating in one of those studies and I cannot give you any details. I'm sorry to say. If you could, however, I will tell you this, if you could go to their website, go to the urology department, normally there's an area that says clinical trials. See if you can get the name of it, and I might be able to give you more information that way if it's not one of the ones that I've, might be influenced by. I don't know. I will tell you that 4 years ago, we had a ton of IC studies reviewed. Last year, we had 0, and I did the antibiotic resistance panel instead. This year, we only had one study submitted for IC research, and I cannot talk about it, except I will tell you that it is an exceptionally good research team. That is all I can say. All right. Emily, she says, do you need inflammation present in a cystoscopy to be diagnosed with IC? No, absolutely not. No. In fact, when you biopsy IC tissue samples, the patients with the most inflammation are Hunner's lesions. The rest of us really don't have inflammation in our bladder. It's just not seen. Okay, and again on Facebook, guys, the technology ghosts and zombies are just messing with me big time. So I'm not seeing half of your posts there for sure. Let me come back to YouTube here. Belle, yeah, you can. I would be happy to talk to you by Skype if you would like. I talk to lots of patients by Skype. However, I need you to buy a coaching session instead, if at all possible. Almost all the phone calls we take are absolutely free, but when we've got to schedule stuff and spend a lot of time, doing wellness coaching is usually better. However, you know what? I'm going to take that back. Here. This is my personal email address, people. icnetwork@mac.com. You send me an email. Belle, you send me an email and tell me where you live and tell me your times, and I will respond back. And if I can Skype with you, I will. Okay. I mean, I have been known to Skype at 1 a.m. my time for patients in New Zealand and Australia. I do support group meetings at midnight sometimes. These are my drop-in meetings. Ileana asks, is there any plans to bring DMSO back? No freaking clue, because they tell us nothing. Ileana, listen, you've been around a long time. You remember the days when we had pharmaceutical companies who cared? They're gone. They're gone. I mean, Johnson & Johnson, Janssen Pharma has done nothing for the IC movement in a decade. We've, Mylan, nothing that I'm aware of. The people who've owned DMSO, they're gone. And so, you know, this is the legacy. There was a time when pharmaceutical companies were incredibly helpful. They did wonderful courses for doctors. You know, this is one of the Elmeron, this is one of the old Elmeron things from, I don't know, like 15 years ago. I have like 5 of them. This is awesome stuff. But, you know, they don't care about patient groups so much anymore. I think they're really forced to redirect that money for profits instead. So we are really hamstrung by the lack of this corporate participation. And the last company that I think really was going to make a big difference in the IC world was Aquinox Pharmaceuticals, who we'd been working with. It was AQX1125, known as Rociptor. We've been doing those clinical trials for 4 years and just getting ready to kick off some fairly big stuff when their phase 3 trial failed, and they shut down the entire department, and there's nothing. I don't know of a single company now that is really doing anything remotely helpful for IC except for Desert Harvest Aloe. This company cares, and they have supported a lot of IC outreach over the years. That's my rant. I'm annoyed. You know, we could do stuff. We can't. There's so many things I'd love to do that we cannot do, like send IC awareness posters to urologists and new educational materials, and it's gone. So frustrated. Medtronic, nothing. They haven't given anything to IC, or any IC outreach, anything. That's hard. Emily says, thank you. Okay, Emily's urologist says, you have all the symptoms of IC, but you don't have inflammation on cysto. Therefore, your doctor will not give you an official diagnosis or treatment. What the hell? A diagnosis of IC in the United States is based upon your symptoms and the absence of other likely causes. If you've got frequency, if you've got urgency, if you've got pain as your bladder fills with urine or pain afterwards, and even if you don't have hydrodistension, even if you don't have inflammation on a biopsy, you're still potentially an IC patient. It's all about the subtypes. It's about the subtypes. So you may just have a different subtype. Now, the opposite, what she might be saying is she's looking in your bladder and your bladder looks normal, but you still have all the symptoms. So do you have IC? Well, I had a hydrodistension and my bladder was normal last year. And do I have IC? Absolutely. But it's about subtypes. My subtype is not a bladder wall subtype. My subtype is pelvic floor central sensitization. So, Emily, I want you to come to our main website, the IC Network, and I want you to watch our video, The 5 Subtypes of IC. And there's a blog on it and an article that you can, a journal article that you can give to her. And you can email me, and I can email you the link, the reference to it, so that you can give that to her to educate her about these subtypes. So you might not be IC subtype 1, subtype 2, Hunter's lesions, bladder wall, but you could very easily be IC subtype 3, subtype 4, subtype 5. Okay? Jennifer asked a good question. She said, my doctor did a cystoscopy and told me I have mild IC. If a doctor can diagnose you without a cystoscopy, why does she say my case is mild based upon her finding glomerulations? I think what she's saying is that your bladder wall is mildly irritated. But again, that doesn't necessarily relate to, so yeah, you don't have Hunter's lesions. That's a wonderful thing. We'll be thankful for that. Your bladder wall is the equivalent of, I have a picture of it somewhere here. Hold on. Let's see if I have my picture. Yeah, here it is. So what she's saying is that your bladder looks like this. And this would probably be more moderate. So what she's saying is your bladder's got some red dots on it, right? So that could be from the test itself, or that could be from your bladder being profoundly irritated or wounded in some way. What she's not respecting, though, is the fact that your symptoms are severe and profound. And you know, to me, it's all about your anatomy. You're having severe symptoms. There has to be a reason why you're having severe symptoms. If it's not from your bladder wall, then what the heck is it from? It's probably from your pelvic floor, or you might have central sensitization. So you definitely want to come to our website and watch that video on the 5 subtypes, and let's see where you stand. You guys are getting dark outside, which is why everything's turning purple. Oh, and I have my purple. I'm getting even more purple because I got my purple Halloween lights on out there. I should go turn them yellow, and then I'd look yellow. That's funny. Okay, Carol said this is her first meeting since she's had her eyes checked. Just wanted to report that your eyes are fine. But the interesting thing is that when I went, your ophthalmologist already knew about the Elmeron issue. But when I went to your urologist, he had no clue and no interest in hearing about it. Yeah, as Carol, I started at the meeting today talking about the new announcement today by SUFU, the Society of Urodynamics and Female Urology. They are the ones who issued an alert today to all of their members. So they are the first medical association actually to try to educate doctors about this issue. And so that's good. Somebody else asked me for an update about it, and we now have another research center who supposedly is doing more research with it. The data that we collected, I'm going to, I have my lights on my house are called app lights. I can control them with an app. This is kind of cool. I got them at Home Depot. I don't know if you can see this. I can change the color and change the effects. So right now it's purple. I'm just going to, because my face is very purple, I'm going to see if I can change the lights right outside this window. Ah, look at it, worked. Hold on. I'll go to golden yellow. Let's see if that's better. Yeah, I'm orange. Let's try this. Okay, that's terrible. Even worse. Okay, anyway. I'm going back to golden yellow. All right. I love the holidays. I love decorating. All right. So I will also give you an update with the Elmeron work, and that is that in our survey, we have, I think, almost 100 patients who have participated now. And let me just go to it right now. And I can give you real-time data on what we're seeing. Let's see here. Elmeron and eye health. Let me look at the results here really quickly, and I can tell you. We have 698 patients who have participated. Of those 698, 605 take Elmeron. And of these patients, 53% report eye disease. Swallow that fact. Holy hell. Now, granted, that data can be massaged and looked at different ways, but that's pretty meaningful and profound in my opinion. All right. Well, let's, guys, for those of you who came in late, I need your help on something. I am having trouble picking our winner for IC Awareness Month poster contest. And so I am asking for you to tell me what you like. And I'm going to hold up these posters. And I want you to tell me which one you think should be our winner, because it will be our official poster for next year in all likelihood, unless there's a print problem with it or something. So here, hold on a sec. Let me just do these. I really need your feedback on which poster you think should win IC Awareness Month. They're going to win an iPad or a Kindle, or there's cash prizes, cash and equipment prizes. All right. So our theme for IC Awareness Month, it was compassionate pain care and receiving respect from our doctors. Okay. Because so many patients now are going to pain doctors who don't know what IC is, and they tell them it's not real. Would it be easier if I took my glasses off? Maybe. Okay. Number one. Here's entry number one. Please remember, I am a patient. I am a human being. I would rather not be here. I deserve compassion. God, it's getting dark. Holy moly. Maybe I can move this light. Okay. That's number one. Please remember. Is that better? It might be a little bit better. Okay. Number two, life with IC is like a maze, easily lost and hard to find. And I review all these at the beginning of my first live event earlier today. Number three is about self-respect. Tell your truth, know you're valuable, follow your passions, trust your gut, set boundaries, be compassionate, get help. Okay, this is really, I mean, we all need to remember this. Number four, this is the only piece of real original art. It's a watercolor that was submitted. IC can be isolating, life-altering, and can set a sufferer adrift. Help us find a course for IC. Respect. This is number four. Respect, treating patients with kindness. Wait, that's number five, sorry. Number six, you are never alone. Together we stand. Number seven, this is hard to see. Support for IC patients should not be out of reach. I think that's hysterical, having the toilet paper so far away from the toilet. Number eight, IC Awareness Month. Who will stand by us? Who will fight for us? Number nine, there will be a cure in, and you'll see it's got years that are crossed out. This is a very poignant one. Number 10, fearless. And number 11, hope. So on our Facebook page is a link to a survey where you can vote for 3, or you can send me an email. I just needed a little bit. Normally we have a committee picking it, but I didn't do a committee this year because I was very involved in the Elmeron stuff. So everything stopped when the Elmeron news came out. All righty. I don't even know how long we've been on. Let's see. Ruth is going to start physical therapy. Good job, Ruth. Be patient. 6 weeks, you can handle it. Catherine was on Elmeron and now has glaucoma. That research did not show glaucoma. It showed pigmentary maculopathy. Carol, would you have a hydrodistension if you're currently not in pain? No, I wouldn't. The only way I would do a hydrodistension is if I were bleeding and they desperately needed to look in my bladder to figure something out. Listen, if you're doing well, why strain it? But it's up to you negotiating that with your doctor. I mean, if he's willing to do a low pressure, short duration, very short, gentle procedure, I would be much more comfortable doing that. But I certainly wouldn't want to go for a big hydrodistension, high pressure, where there's a chance that they will irritate your bladder and send you into another flare. So it's all about how you negotiate the method that they use. And if he says he's willing to be very, 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 very gentle, maybe. Otherwise, I think I would, I don't know. Remember, a hydrodistension is no longer considered a gold standard for a diagnosis of IC by the American Urology Association. It is only used if the diagnosis is in doubt. There is a good reason to do it. If you are bleeding, if your pain is getting worse, yes, then that's when you definitely want to have somebody look in your bladder. Catalina says, if you have inflammation on cystoscopy, do you have lesions? I don't know how to answer that in a way that's meaningful. All I can tell you is that the vast majority of patients without Hunner's lesions do not have inflammation, and that's directly from the European Society for the Study of IC. Isabella says, have you heard of antivirals helping IC, for example, Valtrex, asking in case Epstein-Barr was a cause? That is something we're all asking right now. I will tell you that I actually emailed my counterpart in Europe a month ago and asked them how they are treating viral infections in the bladder, and she sent that off to her expert, and his answer was, it's so rare we don't even know how to do it yet. However, I did say to a patient the other day who has Hunner's lesions on all 4 quadrants of her bladder, and her Hunner's lesion specifically developed after a herpes vaccine. There were multiple things that kind of pointed towards a viral infection in her case. And so I suggested Microgen Diagnostics, viral screening, and that it might be interesting. She's already taken an antiviral for this herpes, and it might, who knows? We don't know. Nobody's studied it yet. We need it. Jacqueline asks on Facebook, is there any link between IC and bladder cancer? No. No. However, if you're worried about it, you can ask for a very simple test, a urine cytology test. I will tell you, my first year, I was obsessed with cancer. I absolutely believed that I was dying of cancer because my bladder pain was so severe. And I was so determined that I actually kind of forced the doctor to do exploratory surgery. I said, I just don't believe you. I do not believe you. This pain has to be coming from cancer. And he's like, all right, if you want me to do a laparoscopy and look, I will do a laparoscopy and work. And I woke up in the recovery room and they said, nope, you're fine. It is not cancer. But, you know, if you're worried about it and catastrophizing about it, you can ask for a simple cytology test. And for God's sake, if you are smoking at all, that is the #1 cause of bladder cancer. So please stop smoking, everybody. If you have a smoker in your house, I will tell you that they have linked bladder symptoms in children similar to IC to secondhand exposure to smoke. So getting that smoke out of your house is, in my opinion, very important. Jennifer says, my daughter's been on Elmeron for 5 years. Would you suggest that she stop Elmeron? She's 25. I can't make that suggestion because I'm not a doctor and I can't give you medical advice. What I can tell you, however, is in this Elmeron ICE study, right here. So this is the Elmiron IC research. And what they did is there were 38 patients, IC patients, who came to their clinic. They profiled 6 of them in this first paper. Patient number 4 was the youngest patient in the study. She was diagnosed at 20. She was diagnosed at 24, and her first eye problems began at age 30. And then she continued to take the Elmiron for several more years. And so she, in fact, had the most profound eye damage. So I would certainly I would certainly get her vision checked. If she's showing any signs of pigmentary maculopathy, any changes in the color of the cells of her retina, that would be an absolute reason to stop it. And we kind of have to wait for the more research. Remember, we've got other products that can have the same effect as Elmiron or similar effect, bladder coating effect. They are over-the-counter supplements, including Cystoprotec, Desert Harvest Aloe, or Cystoreno. Okay, so there are alternatives to Elmiron. In fact, one of the best alternatives is a rescue installation, heparin lidocaine installation. So you need to have that discussion with her. She needs to read about it, talk with your doctor. But just know that very, very few urologists even know about this research yet. The eye doctors know about it. The urologists don't. We're trying to change that. And again, today is the first day a major medical organization has actually announced to their members about this research and told their members to suggest that patients taking Elmiron have their eyes examined if they're having any eye issues. Joyce says she had a laparoscopy and cystoscopy 2 weeks ago and had been undiagnosed with endo and IC. Is it common to have both? Oh my God, yes. We have papers written about it. They're called the evil twins. IC and endometriosis are called the evil twins, and IC, endometriosis, and irritable bowel are called the evil triplets in research studies. And you, my dear, really, number one, go over to the Endometriosis Association website. It is fabulous. You got to join that group, read their materials. They are really, really good when it comes to understanding why endometriosis is happening, and what you can do to fight pain. Remember, they are the ones who actually helped to invent the simple little essential oil that can help reduce endometriosis pain. Okay, this is called Procerona or NeuroQuell. So number one, go over to their website and join them. They're fabulous. I'm telling you, if the IC movement had done what they did early on, we would have been so much farther along. They're just a really research-centric, they're just a great nonprofit. One of the things that they talk about is how toxic chemicals trigger endometriosis. And we have proof of that now. So we know dioxin plays a strong role in the development of endometriosis. Dioxin is the most toxic chemical ever made by man. It is produced by burning plastic. It burns plastic, it goes out to smokestack, it goes out into the environment, gets on the grass, the cows eat the grass, they end up with the dioxin, then it gets concentrated milk, then it gets concentrated in dairy products, yada, yada, yada. So it was dioxin researchers who were trying to prove that dioxin was safe. And they were doing an animal study. They were doing a monkey study. I don't remember what type of monkey. I think it was chimpanzees. And so they were giving this colony of chimpanzees ever increasing doses of dioxin. And one of them died. And they did a necropsy or an autopsy. And what they found was that she was filled with endometriosis. Then they published that data in a very small chemical magazine, a chemical journal. And amazingly, the endometriosis activists found it. They found it. They found proof that endometriosis could be caused by dioxin. Well, this other study was going to kill all the monkeys or sell them off. So the endometriosis people appealed, I think, to the National Institutes of Health and said, before you do that, can we please do laparoscopies on these animals exposed to dioxin to see if they also have endometriosis? And they did that. And it was a dose response encouraged. Every monkey exposed to dioxin had endometriosis. The more exposure, the worse it went, the worse they had. Endometriosis is a man-made disease, and it is one of those things that we as patients have the right to be very angry about, because it is really the use of chemicals for profit over customer safety. And so we've now connected maybe 20 more chemicals, pesticides, things like that to the development of endometriosis. And so on the endometriosis website, one of the things that they are very firm about, that we are extremely firm about, is getting rid of all toxins, toxic chemicals out of your home. And I have a page on that on our website. It is very, very important that you do that. So you cannot use Febreze. You should not be using scented candles. You should not be using Glade plugins, anything like that. We got to clean the chemicals out of our bodies. We got to clean the chemicals out of our homes to try to make sure that we're not accidentally triggering something like endometriosis from happening. This book, which I talked about earlier, when it hurts down there, as written by OBGYN pelvic pain specialist in Texas. She also talks about IC and endometriosis. And for the first time, I've seen dietary changes for endometriosis that I hadn't seen before. It's really about limiting estrogen, foods that could potentially are high in estrogens. So you might want to check this book out too, my dear. I give you a big hug. I'm so sorry that you're going through that, but carry hope in your heart. Carry hope in your heart. Also, just we have a whole diet list on our website. If you for IC and for bladder wall damage, just come on over to the IC network. I mean, we basically published the first 3-column diet list years ago, 25 years ago. So just come on over to ic-network.com, click on the diet section. We got tons of information on diet. You're fine. You're fine. You get all the info you need there. Isabella says, what treatments work best for central sensitization? It's really about calming and soothing nerves. Calming and soothing nerves. I see I look very royal purple. Although my lights are now yellow. My neighbors probably think I'm a nut. They probably think I'm a nut anyway. Because when I'm on the phone with you guys, I'm usually walking up and down the street because I can't sit here all day. All right, I'm just going to take a couple more questions because my mouth is getting real dry. Laura says she's been having horrible growing pain. Your tailbone also hurts. Does it sound like PFD? Yes. You need to have a pelvic floor assessment. Anytime movement triggers your pain, we're always going to look at muscles, my dear. Always look at muscles. Jane asked, what are the results with Hunner's lesions and steroid injections? They're very good with very few side effects, but you can Google that yourself. Steroid injections, a triamcinolone Hunner's treatment. Just Google triamcinolone Hunner's and you can find the research studies. It's considered equally effective, if not more effective than laser therapy because it does not cause scarring of the bladder and it should not reduce your bladder capacity. Whereas if you keep having cauterizations, you're going to get scar tissue and your bladder is going to have trouble expanding. Anne says she's in Stratford, Connecticut, looking for a pelvic floor. Flare due to a 5-week cross-country car trip. Oh yeah, that would be my worry. Ooh, and a DNC 6 days ago. How soon do you do pelvic floor PT? Boy, you got to talk to your doctor about that. I didn't do any pelvic floor PT for 6 months after my hysterectomy. I would have punched anybody who tried to do it. I had so much pain down there. My holistic doc wants to know why B12 unsaturated. I don't know. Hun, you'll have, call me. Feel free to call me. Send me an email. You guys, my super secret email address is, where is it? Here is my super secret email address, icnetwork@mac.com. And I always give freebies away. You guys missed the Desert Harvest Aloe samples. That was a week ago. So your freebies for today, if you want them, are a diet card and a restroom access card, right? So if you would like a freebie from the IC Network, you need to send your name and address to icnetwork@mac.com, and I will send you some freebies. Alrighty, listen, if you found this conversation helpful, we really need your support. As I said earlier, we don't have any corporate support anymore. I mean, the IC movement has dried up. There is just no sponsorship money out there, hardly at all now. So how do we make this happen? How do we do these support group meetings and our website and our blog and all that other stuff? Is we have members, people who subscribe to the IC Optimist, our magazine. And we really, really need your help. So if you could come on over to the IC Network and at least look at what our memberships are. The cheapest one's $25 for a total of 8 issues, 4 past issues, 4 future issues. We have more. There are different membership levels, including medical professional memberships. We would just love to have you as a member. Remember, the information, most of the information on our magazine is not released publicly for at least 6 months, sometimes a year. They go to our members first. All right. I always end these meetings with a very, very important message. The single most important thing I want you to remember from this talk tonight is that this is not your fault. You have done absolutely nothing wrong. I don't want you carrying any shame. I don't want you carrying any blame on your shoulders. You deserve the love, the kindness, the caring, and the compassion of your family. If you had a family member that was hit by a car, you would be with them and caring for them. If your husband had prostate cancer or your wife had breast cancer, you would be there helping them. Okay? You deserve that help. But half of the time we don't ask for that help. And I really need you to ask for help if you're struggling. Let your family know, especially with the holidays coming up. I'll do a couple of things about holiday strategies. But I want to remind you that IC does not change your ability to be a partner. It does not change your ability to be a mother or a father or a sister or a brother or a daughter or a son. IC is below the waist. Keep it there. Keep it there. You know, the single moment that changed my life was when I had a doctor say to me, it was in 1993, this was after 3 college degrees and an award from the White House for my graduate work, right? He said, "You will forever be a burden on your family. You will always live with pain. Get used to it. This is your life." And that was the moment I woke up. And that was the moment I went from being passive and laying in my bedroom feeling depressed and wondering if I should, you know what I mean. That was the moment I became angry. And I went, "I will prove you wrong, you son of a bitch. How dare you say that to me? How dare you take my hope away like that," right? That's the worst things doctors can do. I will prove you wrong, you son of a bitch. I started my first support group from my bed in September 1993, 2 or 3 months after that. I started the IC Network a year after that, and look at us, 25 years ago today, we continue to be #1 on the web, rated by Harvard Medical School and the University of London, and I sit on the frickin' US Army IC research panel. How's that for being a burden? That's not a burden. Sometimes anger is good. Sometimes anger motivates you to make change. Sometimes anger gets you out of your bedroom and onto the internet to read stuff. So I need you to do 3 things, 3 little things, but I need you to do them every single day. The first thing I need you to do for 15 minutes is do something for your spirit or your soul. I don't care if it's hiking, hugging a redwood, or going to church, or listening to Joel Osteen. Do something that that nourishes your soul in some way. For me, it's channel 128 on Sirius when I turn my car on. The second thing I need you to do is I need you to do something for 15 minutes that nurtures your body and your IC. I want you to take a warm bath. I want you to follow the IC diet, or change, or don't walk into Starbucks that day, or get a creamer instead of a latte, or make a phone call for a physical appointment, or call your doctor and make an appointment if you're having a flare. Just do one little thing every day for your bladder, just one little thing, because over time we're making building blocks and they're going to move you in a good, positive, forward direction. And then last but not least, I need you to do something to build your noggin here. We need to get your knowledge level up. You'd be amazed at the number of patients that I talk to who tell me, I've tried everything. There's nothing out there for me. And my answer is, yeah, really? You tell me what you've tried. Oh, they've tried 2 things. Well, hello, we got like 20 treatments now. I need you to build your knowledge level. So every day I want you to read 1 article on our website. I don't care what it is, a blog, a section, whatever. What I don't want you to do is I don't want you to go over to a website that says cure your IC naturally. Because I'm telling you right now, if we had the cure for IC, I would be giving it to you. I would be giving it to you because I'm an IC patient too, but we're subtyping now. There are different variations of IC. And yes, we can cure one of them. We no longer say IC is an incurable disease. We now think of it again as that pelvic injury or trauma. And yes, there are variations that there are great promise for, and then there are some variations which are a little bit harder, okay? But I need you to read about it. I need you to build your knowledge level, okay? So start on our website. We got some great books. Again, one of the books I really love is Ending Female Pelvic Pain. I love the Interstitial Cystitis Solution. I love the book I showed you earlier. We've got tons of stuff. Let's just get your knowledge up there. And then, man, seriously, I want you to challenge me, because if I say something that is wrong, then tell me. Tell me. Let's work together. The favorite people in my life and the IC community, the people who challenge me and tell me what I can do better. So I want you to challenge me and tell me what I can do better too. All righty. Okay. It's almost 7 o'clock here. I got to go feed the folks if they haven't eaten, and I need to drink some water. So hopefully we will fix the Facebook glitches next time. I have no idea why that was so funky. My email address, icnetwork@mac.com, my friends. There you go. Be well. I will see you later. I don't know. Maybe we'll do a meeting on Halloween in costume. Ooh. And for anybody on Fortnite, maybe I'll see you tonight, because I usually play for about 45 minutes. Okay, I'll see you later. Nothing like shooting a few bladders and annoying people in the, doctors who, I can't even, no, I'm not even going to go there. I'll see you later. Stress management is a good thing. Fortnite works.